Hi everyone, thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name's Laura and I work in the Applicant Services team. I'm joined today by my colleague Tamsin from the Applicant Services team, who will be keeping on top of your questions. And we also have Kim and Amy from the Accommodation team and 3 student ambassadors, Jess, Anna and Ronnie. In reference to accommodation, Jess lived in a shared room at Glasney, Anna lived at Tuke House, and Ronnie also lived at Glasney. We'll be covering the accommodation we have available to you across both our campuses. We'll also be able to give you a tour of these facilities using our 360 virtual tour. We'll also share the link to the virtual tour within the message chat function. Finally, we'll be covering how to apply for your accommodation, pre-registration, and discussing the differences between halls and private accommodation. We will also be answering any of your questions, so please get sending them in and we'll answer as many as we can. I'll now hand you over to our student ambassadors who can talk about life at Falmouth and their experience in their first year accommodation.
Hello, so I'm Anna and I was at Tuke House last year. I do fine art, so I study on the Falmouth campus, so Tuke House is nice and close to that. Tuke House is all single rooms with en suites. And so yeah, I had a great year in Tuke House. It was exactly what I needed, nice and cheap, nice and close to the town, close to the beach, close to uni. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Jess and I lived in a shared room on Glasney. I study music, so I'm on Pembrokeshire campus, which literally meant a 5-minute walk to class every day. It was a really great experience for me to get to meet someone straight off the bat. And yeah, I had a lovely first year in my accommodation.
Great, thank you very much. So I think Ronnie is having some connection problems, so I'm not sure if he's able to answer any questions. But I'll hand you over to Amy and Kim now to talk you through some of our accommodation we have available, and I'll use our virtual tour as well, so we can walk you through. I think today we're going to be looking at the Sidings, which is located in Penryn, and we're looking at Tuke House, which is based in Falmouth. Let me just share my screen with you so you can see the 360 tour. Okay, so shall we start with the Sidings?
Yeah, let's go for the Sidings first.
Lovely,
So the Sidings is in Penryn. It's just down the hill from the campus, so it's about a 10-minute walk. So still super close to the campus, but just technically not part of the campus. It's right on the doorstep of the train station in Penryn, which makes it great for getting into town if you're going into Falmouth, but also if you're going home for the weekend or just want to go somewhere a bit bigger, then you can get into Truro really easily, and then connect to the branch line from there. So it's a lot like Glasney in a lot of ways. It's cluster flats, so ensuite bedrooms around a shared kitchen, dining room. So Laura, if you click on that, so this is where it's probably got the biggest difference to Glasney. Is you've got your kind of kitchen dining area here, which Glasney has, but you've also got the sofa seating area as well, which Glasney doesn't have. So I think that's a really nice thing. I think you get to the point, some people in Glasney probably, where you've been sat around the dining table all year and all you really want to do is just kind of lie on a sofa, and so having these is a really nice thing. But other than that, like I said, they're very, very similar. If we leave here, we can go and see the bedrooms. So again, kind of standard for a student hall of residence. You've got your desk and your bed. The beds are 3/4 doubles, so not a full-size double, but bigger than a single. And then the 2 doors here would be the wardrobe and the ensuite bathroom. So everyone gets their own bathroom, which is really nice. And then, yeah, it's got everything else that you need. The prices as well are very similar to Glasney. So this year, Glasney students are paying £151 for a self-catered ensuite single occupancy bedroom, and down at the Sidings they're paying £154. So not really a lot in it. But yeah, it's a bit newer than Glasney as well, which is nice. But yeah, that's kind of about all there is to say really. But it's a nice option. It's nice to be maybe a little bit removed from Glasney for some people. I think like Glasney Student Village has about 1,800 students living on it in total. So it is big and busy, whereas the Sidings has about 230 students. So it's still busy because it still calls a residence. It's just maybe a little bit less intense than Glasney can be. But I'll pass you on to Tuke. So this is Kim's going to talk about this one.
So yeah, so as Anna said, Tuke House is in Falmouth. It's in the centre of Falmouth as well, so it's a very short walk from the bus stop. Literally, you just roll out of bed and you're at the bus stop. And in the centre of Falmouth as well. Again, it's very similar to Glasney and the Sidings. It's cluster flats, so you'll have numerous ensuite rooms to a flat with the shared kitchen dining facilities as well. But the flat sizes do vary, so it can vary from as little as 3 students to a flat to 5 or 6. So yeah, here's what the communal area looks like, so for each flat. So again, it's you've got your dining area, and then you've got a little sofa there as well, along with the kitchen, so that's what you'll share with your flatmates. Tuke House as well is only around about a 5-10 minute walk to the Falmouth campus. And if you did study at the Penryn campus, then it's only about a 15-20 minute bus ride, if that, because like I said, it is right in the centre. And here's what one of the bedrooms look like. Well, most of them look like, to be quite honest. You get a single bed along with your desk, and then you do get an ensuite shower room as well. You do also get your pin board and whatnot with that one. So the beds are the single size. So that's one thing to bear in mind when you do apply, is that you will need to bring single bedding if you do get allocated to Tuke. But other than that, I think that's a lot of it really. Tuke House does house around about 156 students. So it is one of the smaller residences, but I don't think it makes much of a difference, to be quite honest, because if you're in a flat with numerous other students, then you're not really gonna, mix and mingle with, say, 150 other students anyway. So it's still, you still get the same quality and the same principle as what you would do in any other halls of residence as well. And it is our cheapest ensuite room. So it this year the students are paying around about £135 a week for this room. So it's quite a saving from Glasney as well. But yeah, that's really what Tuke's all about, to be honest. So I think that's everything.
Lovely, thank you very much. I'll stop sharing my screen now a second.
Just while you're doing that, Laura, we've had a couple of interesting questions come in about the sidings, and I just wondered if it was a good time for Amy or Kim to perhaps answer those.
Okay.
Firstly was, can you hear the trains from the sidings? And how many students can you have per flat in the sidings as well?
So the sidings has got a little bit of a variation. I think the smallest flat has 5 and the biggest has 8. But I think mostly it's 7 students per flat. So yeah, there are a few variants, but not that many. And with regards to the train, I think you occasionally can hear them if you're on that side of the sidings with your windows open while the trains are running. But actually, because it's only a little small branch line, the trains start, I think, from sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish and are finished by, I think the last one is 10. So even though you maybe might hear them when they're running, they're not running throughout the night or anything like that. So I don't think we ever really get many questions or issues with the noise down there. I think some of the students quite like it as well. It's quite a kind of soothing sound as they're going past.
I used to actually live at the sidings for when I was studying, and my room faced the train track, and you just get used to it. It's not disruptive at all. It just becomes like an everyday noise, to be honest. Yeah. Lovely. Was there any more, Tam?
Not on that for now, Laura. Thank you.
Lovely, no problem. Okay, so just kind of walking you through the application process itself. So first of all, you must have firmly accepted your place at Falmouth to be able to use our pre-registration service, which Kim and Amy will talk to you about. And you can either accept your place via UCAS track or using the applicant portal, depending on how you made your application. So Kim and Amy are going to answer some of the most commonly asked questions when it comes to our accommodation. So the first one would be, how does the process work?
So it's quite a straightforward process, really. Everything's online. We use a site called Room Service, which is just basically our application portal. So you, after you've accepted your course offer and you've got your student ID number, you register an account on Room Service, just with your email and a password that you've chosen. And then that's kind of all you need to do at that point. And then once the application's open, you'll be able to log in, create your application and submit it to us to be processed. Doing the application itself is probably sort of 10-15 minutes. It's actually really quite quick and easy. The time that you would want to spend, though, is before applications open, is having a look at the options that we have, because you'll need to choose all of them and rank them in preference order. And that's the kind of thing that actually does take a little bit of time, trying to work out, you know, would you rather be in a catered room, or would you rather share? Would you rather be in Falmouth or Penryn? And like just working out what the ranking is for you personally, because it's a completely individual choice. But once you've done that and you're plugging those into Room Service, it doesn't take very long at all. And then we've got the ballot window. So from the day applications open, which is going to be Wednesday, the 14th of April next year, and then we'll have the ballot period, which will close on the 11th of June at 5 o'clock. All of the applications we get within that period just get randomised, and then we process them in that random order. So it's a bit like buying a ticket for a lottery or something like that, or entering into a raffle. You'll all be jumbled up, and then that's the order that we go through. So once the ballot closes, we'll have a look and we'll see where we've still got spaces, and those options will go back up on room service, and people just apply first come, first serve. So the sooner you get in after the ballot closes, the more likely you are to get what you want of what's left. But yeah, I think the main thing is just how the ballot works and what we do what we do once we process those applications. So it doesn't automatically mean you get your first choice or anything like that. It just means the higher you end up in the ballot, the better your chances are of getting your first choice. If we can't offer you your first choice, we'll try and offer you your second. And if we can't offer you your second, we'll offer you your third. We always go through an order. So if you are someone that gets a lower preference on your application, and you're wondering why we've given that to you, it will be because where you've fallen in the ballot, everything higher up was full. We always try and give you the highest preference we possibly can, but there will be times where if you're down near the bottom of the ballot and you've chosen something that was really popular, then yeah, that probably isn't going to be available anymore. So we will work our way through your application, and that's why it's so important that you've really thought about that order and where you want your preferences to go, because we can't decide those things for you. So that's your way of telling us, like, what are your priorities with your accommodation? Like, is cost the most important thing, and they'll just be ordered in price and go down that way, or is it essential for you to be in Penryn and you'll put all the Penryn choices first? Or, you know, that's, yeah, so personal. So that's what you kind of want to spend your time thinking about before the ballot opens. And then even when the ballot has opened, because it's all randomised within the ballot period, don't feel pressured or panicked or worried to get your application in really quickly. You've got all the way through until the 11th of June. So you do have plenty of time to think about it. If you've got questions, you can call us and ask us. Yeah, the beauty of the ballot is that it's a lot slower and a lot more time for you guys to think about what you want, and a lot more time for us to answer your questions if you do have any. So yeah, just feel relaxed. There is no difference between an application that we receive 5 minutes after the ballot opens than there is 5 minutes before it closes. So yeah, don't worry, it's the main thing.
Lovely, thank you. And the next question is it cheaper to live in a shared house rather than in halls, and what is the difference?
So it does, yeah, I thought I was about to do it then. So it does vary. So in some instances, you may see online, like on Rightmove and Cornwall Student Pad, that it may be cheaper per week, but then it might not include bills. So that's one thing to look out for. So it could say, oh, the rent is X amount per week, but no bills are included. So then you need to factor in, how much is my water going to be? How much is my electric, gas, internet, all of those different things. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Also, as well, is with the private sector. I mean, we don't force students into going into halls. If the private sector is what you want to go into, then absolutely, that's your choice. But we do find that the majority of our first year students do tend to go into halls of residence, as that's where they'll find like their friendship group that they then want to live with in future years. So if they decide that, like, you know, that their flatmates, they want to live with their flatmates, they can find a house for the next year or meet people on their course and in societies. So there's all of that as well. And as well, if you don't get on with your friends within the, or like if you don't get on with the flatmates within the house, in the private sector, it's a bit more difficult to move than what it is, like, you know, throughout halls of residence. So that's one thing to bear in mind, is that the private sector, although it can be cheaper, you may want to just think carefully about what you'd want to do, as you may not get the chance to meet the people you're going to live with for that year. So that's what I would recommend.
Lovely, thank you. And when will applicants hear about their choice once they've pre-registered?
So once your application's been submitted, obviously we have to wait for the ballot to close before we can do anything. So from the ballot closing, we'll need a few weeks to actually shuffle everyone into their rooms. So we're hoping to send offers out in July. So yeah, someone who's applied right when the ballot opens in April, it will be a while before they hear from us. but that's nothing to worry about. It should be yeah, mid-July-ish that we'll send those offers out, and they'll go out by email. So you'll get an email notification when your offer's been received or been sent rather.
Perfect, thank you. And what are the costs of the accommodation?
We haven't yet confirmed the costs of accommodation for next year, but you can get a guide of what the costs of accommodation are for this academic year and kind of see where each residence kind of sits at with the cost. So if you go onto our website, which is www.fx+a, and then on the accommodation section, you can find the cost of the halls of residence for this year. That is likely to change price-wise and residence-wise, but it will give you an idea of how much each residence is, and also what type of residences there are as well.
Perfect. And the final question from myself would be, when can I move in?
Are you planning to move back into halls, Laura?
Oh, most definitely. No.
I can't get enough. Yeah. So we don't actually know 100% for sure what the contract start date will be next year, but it's most likely going to be the 18th of September. So students will start moving in kind of a few days prior to that, and then usually Freshers Week starts the Monday, so that would be the 20th next year. So yeah, still a long time away, but it's going to come around super fast.
Wonderful, thank you. Have we got any more questions coming in, Tam?
Yeah, we've got some really good questions coming in actually. You talked a little bit about private accommodation just now, but we've had a question, is there an option for mature students to arrange private accommodation with the university, or does that need to be done on an individual basis?
So with mature students, if they're first year undergraduate students, then they are guaranteed a place within halls of residence. And what we do is we do group students of a similar age together. So we wouldn't put someone, say, who's 25 into a flat with 18-year-olds, as that's just not, I can imagine that's not what you'd want. So what we do is we do group students of a similar age together. And if the worst case scenario is we may end up putting mature undergraduate students with first year postgraduate students or whatnot. So that's the worst case scenario, but like I said, you will all be in a flat together. But if it is the private sector you are looking for, then my colleague Richard is probably one of the best people to speak to. He's our private sector liaison officer, and he's on hand to help with any advice and if you've got any questions regarding private sector. So he's on hand to help with that, so you can contact him via phone or email. But we're on hand for halls of residences as well. So don't worry, if you did choose halls of residence, then you will be in a flat with students of a similar age as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And another interesting one we've had actually is somebody's asked would they be automatically placed closer to the campus that they're studying on?
No, we don't kind of suggest that the Falmouth students live in Falmouth or that the Penryn-based students live in Penryn. One reason for that is that because the Glasney Student Village is our biggest halls of residence, and that's on the Penryn campus, we do end up with a lot of students who are based at the Falmouth campus living in Penryn, and we certainly wouldn't want to penalise them or stop them from doing that. And also vice versa, there's a lot of students who, even though their course is based in Penryn, they really want to be close to the beach and the town and all the things that you have access to in Falmouth. So we don't kind of prioritise students who are studying at the campus for the accommodation in the town. It is up to them, and we get students going either way. So it's no problem if you want to live where you study, but also if you want to live in the town you're not studying in.
Thank you. We've had a few questions about car parking. Always comes up. I know you mentioned it, or it's in the presentation a little bit earlier, but a few different people asking about car parking and is it available on various campuses, including quarry, and there's been a couple of questions as well about quarry and a little bit more information about that accommodation there.
So with parking, the Pembrun campus does have car parking available, but you do have to pay for it, and it's a pay-as-you-leave service. But if you are a blue badge holder, then there are some residences that you can get a parking permit for. But you know, blue badge holders, or if it's exceptional circumstances. But what we would do is, if that was the case and we had an email or an inquiry regarding car parking, we would refer you on to the car parking team, who would then be able to advise you whether or not you would be eligible for a permit. Some residences don't have parking, so that's one thing to bear in mind. So if you do require and you are eligible, residences such as Packsaddle, you can't have parking down there because there isn't any. And with the quarry, there isn't any parking down there either. So yeah, that one there, you wouldn't be able to get a parking permit for that one either.
Thanks, Kim. And on the subject of quarry, I've had a couple of questions about it. Are there many students there? Is it a popular location? And how easy is it to get to the Pembrun campus from there?
There's about 135 students there at the moment. It's kind of hard to say how popular it is, really, because people have only been living there this year. So, and it wasn't initially going to be a halls of residence for us. It was taken on because there was a building delay with another halls of residence that we were going to have, which is called Carrot View. So the people that got offered the quarry hadn't actually applied for it, so we don't really know how popular it's going to be. It's also not definitely going to be one of our residences next year, so there's no kind of confirmed contract to have it. So, but to get to the Pembrun campus from the quarry, it's nice and easy. You're kind of in the middle of two different bus stops, so 10 minutes in either direction. You're either going to get into the town centre and pick up a bus from there, or you're kind of on the main bus route in the other direction as well. So that's the easiest way to get in, just by the bus.
Brilliant, thank you. We've also had a question about allocation again. Do we get allocated with people on our course, or is it random?
We do try to avoid actually allocating with people on your course, just because we do find it can be quite intense to live with someone as well as study with someone. So we do try and mix everyone up, and we do also try and mix both Falmouth University students with University of Exeter students, as we do find the balance does work really, really well. So yeah, that's the answer to that one, is we do try and avoid matching you or allocating you with someone in the same flat with someone who's on your course. Sometimes we can't help it, as some courses are more popular than others, but it's something we do try and avoid.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got a question actually that I can answer, which is nice for a change. It's a question about deferral. It says, if we defer to come in 2021, can we find our student ID somewhere? We're not sure where it is. So if you just send us a quick email at applicantservices@falmouth.ac.uk, then we can send you your applicant ID and remind you what that is. So we've also had somebody asking if we're happy to give the email contact number for Richard, because they want to arrange private accommodation. Is that just the accommodation email address?
Yeah, yes. Just to mark it for Richard's attention, and we'll get it to him. So
if that email address is accommodation@fxplus.ac.uk.
Yeah.
So we have quite a few more questions coming in, actually.
Okay.
And one of them is one question that we always get, which is about pets. Can we bring pets?
No. The short answer is no. If you have a registered assistance animal, like a guide dog, then yes, you'd need to notify us as early as you possibly can so we can get all the arrangements in place. But just a regular pet, then no, unfortunately we're not able to allow pets in the halls of residence. So that's a no, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. And we've also had some questions around laundry facilities as well. How much does it cost in general to do laundry and washing and drying at Penryn campus?
So with the laundry facilities, there are laundry blocks located around Glasney, so you will never be too far from one, and it's around £2.80 for a wash, and I think around £1.60 for a dry. You download the app, so it's a specialised app, and then it will tell you which washing machine is available, and then once you've put your washing in, you can then track it, and then that's also how you pay as well. So you pay through the app, I believe. So it's £2.80 for a wash, and I think £1.60 for a dry.
Brilliant, thank you. And also, we just had a few questions about the transport links between the campuses. How regular are they, and how much does it cost to get between Penryn and Falmouth campuses? I don't know if one of our students as well wants to answer how easy it is to get from campus to campus.
Yeah, that would be good actually. But in terms of how frequent they are, in peak times on the normal timetable, which obviously they're not really running at the moment, but the usual timetable, there are 10 buses per hour at kind of peak time. So you're not waiting any more than 10 minutes. And the journey itself takes sort of 20 minutes-ish from the Penryn campus sort of into Falmouth town centre. And there are some of the buses will drop you off pretty much outside the Falmouth campus as well, so you're kind of on the doorstep. Yeah, if any of the ambassadors that were kind of commuting could fill us in a bit more.
I wasn't commuting for uni, but I did netball. Yeah, I was living in Falmouth and had uni in Falmouth, but I did do netball on the Penryn campus, so I was catching the bus up 3 times a week, and I never had any problems. Like, especially from Tuke, it's as I said, you literally just roll out of bed and you're there, like at the bus stop. And like one of my netball sessions started at 7 a.m. in the morning at Penryn, so like the buses were fine for that. So I don't think there'd be any problems. And generally you just get an app on your phone, and you can just scan that as you get on the bus, so you don't have to remember to kind of like.
With the app, it works out. It's about £2.50 for a return.
Yeah, and there's different like
bundle ticket
bundles you can get as well. So it's I know that I can't remember the different versions, but depending on how often you're going, you can find a bundle that suits you best, and the bundles do knock off a bit over time, I think.
We've had a question about if somebody doesn't get on with their roommate, what happens then?
So what we would say is we don't do any room moves within the first 2 weeks of students moving in. It's just that obviously we do like to let the dust settle, and it can be quite intense, especially if it's your first time away from home, moving away. So yeah, within the first 2 weeks we avoid doing any room moves, obviously, unless it's really serious. But if you still don't get on with your roommate after 2 weeks, then we do advise to get in contact with us, and then we would have a look and see if we can move you to another room, or that we have available. But obviously we'll cross that bridge when we do come to it. So, but we would look to move you.
It's something that happens a lot less often than I think students might think as well with roommates. I suppose, Jessica, you probably know a bit more about it, but yeah, it's not something that happens as often as I think people worry that it does. Like, a lot of the time people sharing a room are they do get on well, and it does kind of work out quite well.
Yeah, just to kind of jump in on that, I'd say, like, I was really worried before like I came, because obviously it's a big thing to spend the first year with someone you don't know. But me and my roommate got on so well. Like, we still live together now, and we're both in 3rd year, so it worked out really well for us. And again, we both had friends who shared rooms with other people, and again, like, they all got on really well too. So I think definitely it's not something to have as such a big worry, because more likely than not you will get on with the person you've got to live with.
Yeah, we definitely have more problems with the idea of sharing a room, like people being really worried about it in the summer, understandably, than the problems that we have once people have moved in. Actually, what we find is that, like, Jessica's just said, like it goes well. But same as Kim said, there is the option to move if you need to, but you might find that, you know, something that you were really worried about in the summer, once you've met that other person and that kind of unknown element is taken away, and suddenly you've like spent a lot of your first term's student loan on your rent and think like, oh, you know, I actually don't want my own room quite as much as I thought I was going to. I'm kind of okay sharing. But the option is there for anyone who it doesn't work out that way for.
And we've had a question, which is, can we apply for accommodation if we accept Falmouth as our second choice?
No, because hopefully you'll be going to your first choice and you'll apply for accommodation with them. But for us, if it does change, like if you know, you have a change of heart halfway through the summer, or something happens with your results where your insurance becomes your first choice, at that point you can apply. So get in touch with us and submit an application right away. But we don't take any applications from students who aren't necessarily going to come. We'll wait until you know for sure to take the application.
Thank you. And just again on the parking and transport front, is there an option for day parking at the Penryn campus if buses aren't available?
Yeah, you can, like Kim said, there's a pay as you leave option, but it's kind of the university really tries to encourage students to use public transport and green methods of travel as much as they can. So if you're going to be coming into uni like every day and parking just for an hour or two, it will start to add up quite quickly, and you'll probably will be better off price-wise taking the bus. And certainly, like we said, the buses start super early, they run till really late as well. Obviously the bus company have realised that there are going to be students on a night out wanting to get back to the campus, so they've put on a lot of later services in the last sort of few years. So there shouldn't ever really be a time where you couldn't take the bus.
And we've had a question as well. If you wanted a single room, could you end up being offered a shared room?
That can happen. So basically, if you put a shared room down as one of your preferences, then yes, that can happen. It's only because, as Amy was explaining earlier on with the ballot system, obviously with the ballot system, it doesn't matter if you apply 5 minutes after the ballot opens or 5 minutes before it ends. It's just about the random generation. And if you end up quite low down and then shared option is quite low down in your preferences, then of course you can end up there. But I'll pass it on to Amy because I do believe that we are looking to possibly not have as many shared rooms, but I'll let Amy just confirm that one if that's all right with you.
Yeah, I think with all the things going on with coronavirus and people being sort of more wary about sort of sharing space that kind of intently is in a shared room, what we're trying to look to do is maybe reduce the number of shared rooms that we have, so that the people that do have them have really wanted them, because financially, like I said, it can be a really attractive option because it is the cheapest thing that we have. But yeah, with any of the options, depending on where you fall with the ballot, there's always going to be a chance that you could get the lowest option on your application, and we hope that for most students that's not what's going to happen. They will get something higher up, but yeah, all of the options are available, so in theory you could get anything that you've applied for. Yeah.
Thank you. And had a couple of questions about moving in to campus. Somebody says we're coming from quite far away, 6-7 hour drive. When will we be allowed to move into halls, and are we given an allotted time to do that?
So with moving in, with the contract start date, we're unsure when that will be at the moment. So, but if it's let's say the 18th of September, the move-in weekend will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what will happen is that you'll have an online induction to complete. That has to be done, and then once you've completed that, you are then able to then go on to select your move-in time slot for the day and the time that would be better for you. We would advise to get this done as soon as possible, because once the slots are gone, they're gone. as with this year, we weren't really able to be that flexible with moving slots just because of what's going on in the world right now. We had to limit numbers and be really strict with it. So yeah, so you will get to choose a day and time slot as long as you do it as soon as possible. But if the later you do it, don't be surprised if the chosen day or time or both have gone. But yeah, that's what we do. We don't allocate a time. You choose that one yourself.
Brilliant, thank you. And a question around the phone signal and Wi-Fi, just in terms of what Wi-Fi is available and how good the signal is.
So all of the halls of residence have Wi-Fi. All of them come with that as part of the rent. The cost is included in your rent. In terms of phone signal, I guess for different networks it's going to be different. So I couldn't really comment depending on what specific network you're on. It's not something we hear much about though, about you know, students being kind of black spots and that kind of thing. So I think mostly it's okay, but certainly Wi-Fi, all residences have it, and all with a reasonable speed.
I wonder if the ambassadors have got any views on that as well from their experience.
Yeah, I was going to say with the phone signal, I seem to remember before I came to uni, I was kind of added to a Facebook page of freshers in my year, and someone asked on there like what kind of network is good for the area, and sorry, my Wi-Fi just glitched really badly there.
Talking about signal and Wi-Fi.
But yeah, so I think just asking, and there's the just as we're talking about it, yeah. And there's the unibody system, and you get a student mentor. So there's lots of people who are already in Falmouth that you can kind of ask if you have a specific, like, oh, I'm currently on EE, like, would you recommend? Which, as a side note, EE I had no signal, so I had to change to GiftGas. But yeah, so there's lots of people you can ask specifically about signal.
Yeah. And we've just been asked about sort of speed of the internet. I don't know if you've got any more sort of specific information or whether that varies from hall to hall.
So yeah, it can vary. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was supposed. No, that's all right. It can vary from hall to hall. I do know that Glasney is super fast fibre optic. But with the other halls of residences, I'm not 100% sure. But I do know at least that it's not bad. It is still quite good. But I'm not 100% sure on the other ones.
Brilliant, thank you. We've had a couple of questions as well, which are not particularly related to accommodation, but somebody has asked if their applicant ID is the same as the student ID from when they apply for accommodation, and we can confirm that it is. The only one that's different would be a UCAS personal ID, and that's a much longer number. So, but yeah, your applicant ID is generally the same as your student ID. And we've had a lot of questions about Falmouth University mugs as well. That have been sent out. I don't know, we might need to get back to you on that one after. We will answer all your questions after if we don't manage to answer them in the webinar today, so don't worry about that. Some mugs have been sent out, and it seems that they're very popular and that everybody wants to get hold of them. So we'll have a look into that afterwards. Is that okay, Laura? And we'll get back. Unless you've got anything you can update on that.
No, that's absolutely fine, Tam. We can send those people messages after, just confirming when they should receive them.
That's brilliant. Thank you. We've got another one from an international applicant who's also asked about pets, and somebody else has also asked about having a decent monitor size. They need a decent monitor desk size, so they're just asking about the size of desks, and will they be able to get a good size monitor in there. But I guess that depends as well on the halls of residence. Or
yeah, I mean all rooms will come with a desk, so there shouldn't be any unless the monitor is like absolutely enormous, which I guess it could be. But no, there shouldn't be any issues with fitting a monitor on the desk. I mean, the desks are there designed for students to use, so there should be, you should assume that you can get a computer monitor on your desk.
Fantastic. And somebody asking which accommodation is the most sociable accommodation?
To be honest, it's difficult to say really, because a lot of the accommodation, if not all of it actually, is all like cluster flats. So you'll have that aspect. But also as well, we do find a lot of students under normal circumstances, obviously, and do tend to mix with the flats within the blocks as well. And they'll have friends on their course, friends in societies that will be in different halls of residences that they'll meet up with and whatnot. So it's a bit of a difficult one to say, really. Because all of the residences are quite sociable. We do have feedback that, well, I don't think there's any feedback that a specific residence is very quiet. We do have quiet blocks located throughout some of the residences if there's enough students, but I've never had a complaint about a student saying that one whole specific residence is very quiet. Quite the opposite, really.
And another question about security. So how are private rooms secured? We've had that question as well, but also generally about security as well at Glasney.
Okay, so all the bedrooms have a lock, so you're the only one that can get into your specific bedroom, and then obviously all the flatmates will have a key to the flat door, and then if you're in blocks, everyone within the block can get into the block. So there are kind of levels of security, and then on Glasney we've got 24-hour security. They are based at Glasney Lodge, which is the reception building for the whole halls of residence, but during the night they do cover the other residences as well. So if you ever had an emergency or ever needed to get hold of someone at a really weird time, like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, there is a member of staff in Glasney Lodge 24/7 who can assist, and that's 24/7, 365 days a year. Like even on Christmas Day, there's going to be someone there. So yeah, that can be used by all residents, not just the students at Glasney. Like the lodge is there for everyone.
That's great, thank you. Have we got time for a few more questions, Laura?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. We just had one in saying that they're studying on the Falmouth campus, but they've heard that more people stay in Penryn. So would you be a bit isolated staying in Falmouth halls of residence?
We don't hear of anyone being isolated. I mean, statistically, there are more people or more students in Penryn. That's because that's where we have more rooms. But I mean, if I pass you on to Anna, because Anna studied in Falmouth, would you say you felt isolated in Falmouth? I know you studied on Falmouth campus, but
yeah,
No.
Yeah, like not at all. I think it was that, like we've been saying, they're kind of cluster flats. So even at Tuke, there's still loads of people. Like you'd do well to sort of have met every single person in even Tuke House. So I don't think there's any risk of running out of people to meet there. And then you've got the Falmouth campus as well. But then also, even if you did need to get to Penryn for, like I know there's a lot of student union events and things like that, especially during Freshers Week, that are up on the Penryn campus. But as we've been talking about, the buses are very frequent and very easy to get to. So I don't think it's isolated at all. If anything, like I think it's nicer to be sort of in the centre of a town. There's like a lot going on. Penryn campus students will be kind of coming down to Falmouth quite a lot to go to the like spoons and things in Falmouth. So yeah, if anything, I think it's a really nice like connected place to be.
We've also been asked how far is the closest supermarket to residences. The person asking the question hasn't specified which residence, but
I could rattle it off for all of the residents.
Yeah.
It might be a bit too specific. Glasney, the closest is Asda, so like a big Asda superstore, like absolutely massive, and that's about 15 minutes walk from the campus, so super convenient. If you're down in Falmouth, there's a Tesco, like a Tesco Metro in Falmouth town, and all of the Falmouth residences are in walking distance at least of that, or if they will be close to that, but there's also like an Iceland and another little Tesco and corner shops and stuff. So wherever you are, you're on foot able to get to a supermarket, so you're not going to have any problems doing shopping. But what we find like more and more is that loads of students are getting stuff delivered as well, so you can still get deliveries to your residence. The only thing we ask is that the arrivals weekend, we don't let any supermarket delivery vans in, just because they're so big and they're so slow that like the year before last, we didn't think about it in time, and it just caused absolute kind of bedlam with them kind of clogging everyone up while everyone was trying to unpack and move in, and then there were all these supermarket delivery vans getting stuck. It was a nightmare. But other than that, yeah, if you don't want to walk to the supermarket, just yeah, get it delivered.
Brilliant, thank you. And we've also had a question about what you can put on the walls in halls. So what are you able to put on the walls in your room? Are you able to use blue tack or anything else?
We do advise to stick to your pinboard, just because blue tack tends to leave grease marks, and if there's any form of marks on the wall, then you will get charged at the end of the contract for like a repaint or just to fix whatever's there. So we do advise not to put anything on the walls unless you unless you want to get charged at the end of it. So yeah, just stick to your pinboard.
That's great, thank you. And we have another question: is are guests allowed in the rooms?
So it's a difficult one to answer at the moment, because obviously we're getting a lot of government mandated guidance on guests and those kind of things. So obviously the government guidance will always take precedence on what our regulations are. So at the moment we're following the tier 1 guidance, and visitors from outside of tier 1 would have to follow their guidance. So it's all incredibly complicated at the moment, but in a normal year, when things are hopefully, as they will be getting closer to normal in September next year, then yes, guests are allowed. What we say in the first 2 weeks is no to guests, just because in the same way that we don't do room moves, like Kim said, is we're kind of letting the dust settle. It's a similar thing, like you've just moved in with all these new flatmates that you're wanting to get to know each other, and then if someone's got their boyfriend come to stay for the week, it just makes everything a bit more difficult, and it's a bit harder to get to know those people and find that new kind of balance within your flat. So for 2 weeks we say no, but after that guests are allowed. Anything longer than I think it's 3 nights, you have to notify or you have to request permission from the halls of residence manager, and all guests, you do need to notify them just so that they're signed in at reception for fire safety, just so we've got a record of who's actually staying. But other than that, yeah, guests can come, which yeah, we hope will be the situation again in September. But like I said, if the government rules are still different, then we'll still be following those.
Thank you. We've had some brilliant questions tonight, actually. We've just had another one as well in to say, how do we get packages delivered to our accommodation?
So once, especially Glasney, once you've got your address, so your wherever you're staying in Glasney Park or Glasney View, your block, flat and room number, then you can get packages sent to Glasney Lodge, where they'll be safe and secure. Once they've been signed in, then you'll receive an email from Glasney Lodge to say that you'll have a package, and then you'll just go there, produce your student ID, and then it'll get handed over to you. And like we said, the lodge is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the packages are then safe and secure as well. Other residences do have their own different protocols, and I can no, sorry, Packsaddle is the same as Glasney. So if you are living down in Packsaddle and you get a parcel, then yeah, you pick it up from Glasney. But the sidings and Tube House will have their own systems.
Right. If you've got time, we've just got a couple of questions about Tuke, and that is, how many rooms are there at Tuke House, and how many people share a kitchen there?
There's 156 rooms, I think, about 150 roughly, and then sharing the kitchen, most of the flats are 5 people, so you would be sharing with 4 others. There are a handful of flats that are smaller and are only 3 people, so then you would just be sharing with 2 other people. And I'm guessing you were in a 5-person flat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And sharing
it
the
was
kitchen with
absolutely
4 others,
fine.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fine. We had, as you saw from the tour earlier, kind of like the table and then a little sofa in the corner. So there's like a couple of little areas if you need to sort of, I don't know, wait for someone else to use it. You can just wait on the sofa for a minute. But I don't think I ever had any problems really with, all 5 people in the flat at once.
Yeah, I don't think that happens that often, does it? Everyone trying to go get one.
Everyone runs on a really different schedule, I think.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we're running out of time to answer any more questions, but if anyone does have any more questions, there are lots of different ways to get in touch. If you can't find the answer on our website, you can ask our students. There's a great function on our website called Ask a Student where you can chat to current students across different courses. And you can also get in touch with applicant services if you have any questions. You can get in touch with us by phone, email, or using the applicant portal. And we also have a live chat on our website. So that's also a really good way to get in touch. If you wish to speak to someone in the accommodation team, if you just find their email address on their website, they'd be more than happy to have a chat with you too. But if you have any questions about finance or you want to have a chat with the course team, also let us know and we can help arrange that for you. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to answer all of your questions, and thank you so much to everyone on the panel as well. You've been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, Laura.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye. Bye.